I had a lot of experience with the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, and we enjoyed them a lot. I wish we had them back.
So when we moved into Sunset Gap in East Tennessee, the youth in our area did not have a lot of opportunities. Dad noticed this and thought, what could he do? And he decided to develop our Boy Scout program, our Troop 291. So we had this for the boys anywhere from, for Boy Scouts from 11 to 18. Then we also had the Cub Scouts and Webelos. And then my mom, Kaye Davis, had the Girl Scouts. So she was the first Girl Scout leader. Dad made sure our guys had an opportunity to travel around the United States. And so since Dad was from Wyoming, he got the kids to Wyoming and also over to California. When I got to be, that was before I got to be in Scouts, but when I got to be 11, we took a huge trip to Canada and went to Niagara Falls. We camped out in a lot of different states using our little pup tents and stuff, and it was just maybe a 2-week trip. We took 2 vans. One of the other dads of one of the Scouts drove the other van, and had just the best time. We probably took about 12 boys with us and 2 adult males. And so Dad made sure our guys had opportunities to get out of East Tennessee and to see what was out there. And that made a lot of difference in a lot of the guys' lives.
Bob was deep into being the Boy Scout leader and enjoying it very much. The boys seemed to enjoy it too. Every year they would take a trip in the van. We used our own van the years we were there, and I've often thought how fortunate we were not to have had accidents. But it took boys all around the country. They even went to Wyoming, where Bob grew up, and they went to a restaurant that he had in mind, and there was a young girl there who noticed them and came up to Bob and said, "Are you the Scoutmaster?" "Yes." "Well, are you from Tennessee?" "Yes." "Are you my Uncle Bob?" And he was. So that was really a highlight for him. We decided to have the Girl Scout troop because the girls needed that same kind of fun. Not the trips so much, although Lynn Crocker took them to the beach in North Carolina one summer as the Girl Scout troop. And I led the group and had an assistant, and we met at my house most of the time because it was that size group. And one of the things we did was make something that we could give to their mothers. And I think it was using clay, and each one made their gift and gave it to their moms, who were happy to get it. We sang, and we opened with the things the Girl Scout troops open with, and closed that way too. I think it was the music to taps, but with a few different words. The boys and Bob gathered ramps for the ramp festival, and the girls cleaned them. We sat out on our front yard and had water buckets and cleaned them off and got them ready to eat. Ramps for the ramp festival that happened for many years in Cosby. I learned a lesson when I called the mothers of Girl Scouts together and asked for someone to be an assistant as we met as a group weekly. And one of the ladies, I called by name and said, would you be interested? And she said, I wouldn't care to, which in Iowan means no thank you. I really don't want to do that. But in Tennessee, it means, yeah, I've talked it over with my husband. We decided that 2 girls would be in it, and I would like to do that. So I lost a friend that day, and it lasted a long time. Finally, we patched it up, and her girls had a good Girl Scout experience.
A little later, Bob Davis came as a director, and he started the Boy Scout program. I helped as the leader of the Boy Scouts. We'd done a lot of camping. We directed traffic for the Ramp Festival some years. The Boy Scouts would go and park the cars or tell people where to park them.
Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. My son Duran started out as a tenderfoot and wound up as an Eagle Scout. My 2 daughters, Joni and Karen, was in the Girl Scouts for a while, and they participated in other things, so that didn't last long.
Well, Boy Scouts, you could start when you were 10 years old and 9 months. So I got to start 3 months before my 11th birthday. And I would just look so much going into Boy Scouts. And sometimes we'd meet twice a month and sometimes once a month. And we did a spring camporee and we did a fall camporee. And in 1972, the first year I was in Scouts, I started in October, Reverend Davis took us on a 2-week trip out west. And the second night we stayed in Oklahoma, and a tornado went by not too far from us, maybe a county over. But we were just setting our tents up, and we had them set up and hadn't them staked down yet. And it blew some of the tents over and over and over. We had to go probably 100 yards and retrieve those tents. Then we stayed at the Grand Canyon 2 nights. And, I'm just barely 11 years old, and most of the boys were 13 and 14. They're a lot older than me. And I never had been away from home, much, just spend the night with somebody. So we're sleeping out on a big tarp under the stars at the rim of the Grand Canyon. And it wasn't developed out there like it is now. And I just could not go to sleep. And I was up, and I was looking around at the stars and the vastness, and couldn't hear a sound. And all of a sudden I heard a coyote howl. And it just, I didn't know what to do. And one of the older boys, he woke up. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've heard an animal. I'm afraid of it." And he said, "Shut up and lay down and go to sleep." So I shut up and laid down and went to sleep. Woke up and we hiked down to the canyon and part way down the next day. Went up to Grand Tetons and Yellowstone. It was in May, late May, and there were still snowdrifts up there. And I was amazed that there were snowdrifts that high. We actually stayed at Rapid City, South Dakota, and a week after we were there, it came a flood, and there were a troop of Boy Scouts camped out in there, and I think some of them lost their lives, so we were lucky on that. Saw my first Major League Baseball game in person. It was the Kansas City Royals and Milwaukee Brewers, and we went to that, and then came back the next year. We went to Florida, went to Marine Land, and Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral, and parts of Florida, went to the beach. And when we took a year off and didn't go anywhere, and in 75 we went to up north and went to Montreal and Toronto, Niagara Falls. So we actually got to see the old Montreal Expos play in a minor league ballpark because they were building the Olympic Stadium. They hadn't finished it yet. So I actually got some pictures of it before it was completed. And each summer we'd go to Camp Pillissippi. I believe it was on Norris Lake. And I remember one time they always had a watermelon fight, they called it. What they do, they'd grease you up with Crisco, whoever was participating, and they'd throw 2 or 3 watermelons. It was out in the middle of the lake, but they had a swimming crib. But it was about 9 foot deep. Well, I couldn't swim good at all. I could dog paddle. Well, they nominated me to be in the watermelon fight. So I'm in there, and all of them was older boys, 14, 15 years old. I'm there, just a little chubby boy. I hadn't started growing tall yet. And they put that Crisco all over us, and then they throwed them watermelons in, and if you didn't jump in, they pushed you in. Well, I jumped in, went underwater, come up, was gasping for air and trying to hang on to the side. And there's a watermelon come up, and some big guy come and dunked me under. And I come up and spewing water again, and all of a sudden I'm right beside the edge, and a watermelon come right up under me and hit me in the chin. I just grabbed it and threw it out. Well, all the boys thought I was a hero because we had got to have one of the watermelons for supper. And we would do archery, and we'd work on different merit badges, and we shot at the rifle range. I remember about every year we win, our troop won all the awards from shooting 22s, because these old mountain boys, and all of them can shoot rifles pretty good. They'd hang them targets up and put Troop 291, and put the names of who had won it. So that was exciting times. And then got my Eagle Scout. Gerald Ford was president and signed my certificate. That was a really big honor to get your Eagle Scout. And it was awarded, ironically, on the 4th of July when I got that. And that was a big honor. I've still got my merit badges, sash. I've still got my Eagle medal, my whole uniform. I've got my Eagle scarf. And then I served as junior assistant patrol leader and junior assistant scoutmaster until I went off to college. And then, I was 18 then, and at college. But for 7 years, Boy Scouts was a huge part of my life, and it taught me a whole lot about life, leadership, and fellowship, as preschool did. Learned a lot of lessons about life at Sunset Gap, and but we had to recite the Scout laws and the oath, and trustworthy, loyal, thrifty, brave, clean, kind, obedient, and reverent. So there was the God factor again in Boy Scouts. I knew they had a Girl Scout trip at the time. Both my sisters were in there. I know they went to Williamsburg with their Scoutmaster, Miss Davis, and they met in the same room we did. And so they met on different nights and stuff. So they had that going. They had the Weeblos and the Cub Scouts, which fed, of course, Boy Scouts. Strong troops at the time. Did a lot of stuff. We went over to Hopewell Church in Dandridge and cleaned off their cemetery every fall. And I think they gave us like $300 or $400 for working one day, which is big money. We had to help make up money to go on our scout trips. And we'd do pancake suppers. We'd do spaghetti dinners. We'd sell light bulbs. We'd sell candy. We'd sell candles. And everybody usually would buy something off of you. They knew you was going to come and ask them. But we made up the money to go on all of our trips. So it's just an exciting time. Real fond memories of scouting at Sunset Gap.